Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The General's Desire by Tess Summers. Narrated by Anastasia Watley and J.F. Harding. Prologue. Brenna. No, he did not. You're kidding. Brenna, please tell me you are kidding. Cassie Sullivan yelled through the patio door before flopping on a blue outdoor lounger at her older sister's San Diego beach house. The weather was unseasonably warm for the 15th of December. Brenna Roberts walked onto her patio carrying 2 glasses of white wine and handed one to her younger sister. Nope, I'm not kidding. Stood the fuck up. No call, no text, no email, no nothing. I sat there like a fool for over an hour. Oh, God, how embarrassing. I'm so sorry. Cassie took a sip before setting the glass down on a side table. Do you think the restaurant staff knew you were stood up? Grimacing, but still managing to chuckle, Brenna replied, They wouldn't seat me until all parties had arrived. When no one else arrived, they kind of had an idea. Ouch. Cassie wrinkled her pug nose and hugged an orange throw pillow. And you still haven't heard from him? Brenna shook her head, sitting down in an oversized chair that was the same cornflower blue as the lounger. Not a peep. He didn't return my call or my text. Maybe he forgot? Or switched up the location? Brenna scoffed. Then why hasn't he responded to me? The younger girl sighed. Well, did you at least tell him off? What would be the point? Standing someone up says a lot. I think it's a pretty big fuck you. I'd just be wasting my breath. Me telling him off would probably only help him justify what he did. Cassie took another drink of wine, seeming to be lost in thought, absorbing what her older sister said. Screw being the better person. I'd drop a carton of eggs on that asshole's fancy sports car and maybe slash a tire or two. Don't you think you deserve better than being stood up without even an apology or explanation? Oh, sister, I know I deserve better than that. I just wish he would have done it on the first date instead of the 5th. As if still not wanting to accept someone had stood her big sister up, Cassie suggested, What if he's been kidnapped? Brenna shot her an annoyed look. Really? Come on. Pretty sure kidnapped rich bond trader would at least make the local news. We would have heard about it by now. You think the media wouldn't be all over Raymond Reitmeyer's abduction story? He's a pretty big deal. Just ask him. She overemphasized the second syllable in Ray's name to mock his pretension. Cassie gave an obligatory giggle at her sister's attempt at a joke while she sat with her nose in her phone, then made a face. You said people at the restaurant knew you were stood up? Brenna dragged out her next words with an eyebrow raised. Yeah? Why? Cassie flashed the phone screen at Brenna. In the out and about section of the local paper was a picture of Brenna from about a year ago with the headline, Would you stand her up? Apparently their sources say you were pretty distraught at being stood up. I even gave the bartender an amazing tip, Brenna said in mock indignation. Being in the out and about section wasn't new to her, so she wasn't that upset. Cassie started to read the photo caption aloud. Brenna Roberts, the stunning widow of Padres second baseman Danny Roberts. Brenna interrupted her. Do you mind? I lived through it. I don't want to hear about it, too. Cassie kept reading, only silently now. God, those people are like vultures, she said, throwing her phone onto the matching lounger next to her. Springing to her feet, she started to pace, then stopped and glared at Brenna, who hadn't moved from her spot on the oversized chair. Why are you so calm about all this? Sweetie, how many times were Danny and I in that rag? There's no point getting upset about anything in there. You're just wasting your energy. Oh, I know that. Nobody believes anything they print anyway. I'm talking about that dickhead who stood you up. I mean, who does that? How fucking hard is it to text a simple, hey, can't make it, instead of just leaving you hanging like that for the bottom dwellers to feed on? God, I wish you were still writing. I'd love to see you kill that dick off in your next screenplay. Cassie narrowed her eyes and pointed a finger at her older sister. You'd still be able to do that, right? You haven't gone soft, have you? Brenna gave a sly smile and curled her legs under her before taking a drink. Holding the wine glass with both hands, she left it at her lips and murmured, "Let's just say I can picture a good-looking bond trader meeting an untimely and painful demise." Cassie always said her big sister was passive-aggressive when it came to her writing, especially when some of her characters ended up dying on the big screen. Brenna preferred to think of it as cathartic. If people thought they recognized themselves or others in her characters, well, she couldn't help that. After all, her characters were fictional. Any resemblance to persons living or dead was purely coincidental. "Bren, when the fuck are you going to start writing again?" Chapter 1. Brenna. Unable to sleep, Brenna lay in bed looking at the black scoop-neck cocktail dress hanging on her closet door. She was attending her first social function as a single woman since her husband, Danny, died almost 3 years ago, and she was nervous. She wasn't sure how she'd be received tomorrow night, but hoped it wasn't sympathetically. She hated that look she got from people once they found out she was a widow. Her real estate agent, Ava Erickson, was co-hosting a black-and-white New Year's Eve ball with Travis Sterling, one of the city's most eligible bachelors. Although, since he was co-hosting the party with a pregnant Ava, Brenna doubted he was very eligible anymore. She liked Ava and had planned on asking Ray to be her date when she RSVP'd for 2. After he stood her up, Brenna phoned to let Ava know she wasn't able to make it after all, but somehow ended up agreeing to attend by herself before she hung up. She hadn't been entirely honest with her sister a few weeks ago when they sat on her patio and she told her about Ray. Truth was, her feelings were a lot more hurt than she'd let on that he had stood her up without so much as a text or call. He had been really determined in the beginning to get her to go out with him, and she found him handsome and charming. She quickly realized he was more into the chase than anything. Brenna knew once they slept together, the hunt would be over and he'd move on, so she never let it get that far. Even though she knew he was not long-term material, there was that little bit of ego that made her believe that once he'd gotten to know her better, he'd be interested in more than just sleeping with her. The way he had dismissed her without a second thought bruised her pride. Her ego might have been hoping he'd call and apologize, maybe grovel a little, but it didn't happen. She looked at the floor-length dress and smiled. After finally gaining back most of the weight she had lost after Danny's accident, Brenna had actually enjoyed dress and shoe shopping, and for the first time in a long time was looking forward to going out. The doorbell rang at Brenna's house at 10:30 in the morning on New Year's Eve. Her Labrador mix Zona bounded to the door, barking to alert her in case she had missed the bell. Brenna heard Cassie call out, "Hey, bitch!" and then the door close. Her sister was kneeling down and roughly rubbing Zona behind her black ears when Brenna appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You're early. You're never early. What's up with that?" "I don't have any food at my place." Cassie grinned as she stood and walked past Brenna toward the fridge. "Gee, help yourself," Brenna muttered, following her sister into the bright modern kitchen overlooking the ocean. With a bowl of cereal, Cassie sat down at the kitchen island and watched Brenna cut sugar cookie dough into football shapes on the gray granite countertop. "What's with the cookies?" "I'm taking them to Tucson with me tomorrow. Danielle and I are going to a party to watch football. I figured I'd try to get in touch with my domestic side and not bring something store-bought." "Is anyone yummy you know playing tomorrow?" Brenna laughed. "No, it's college games on New Year's Day. Besides, I only know baseball players, not football players." "Still haven't heard from Assface?" "No, and honestly, I don't expect to. At this point, what could he possibly say? He's way too proud to admit he did anything wrong. Even if he did, it would be half-assed in a take-it-or-leave-it kind of way." Brenna sat quietly for a minute, then shrugged. "He can fuck off. I swore after Danny that I would never let a man treat me poorly again. The only reason I put up with it from Danny for so long was because he was such a great dad." "Hey, about my beautiful niece. Why did Danielle only stay a week for the holidays? Is she mad at you, or is she dating someone?" Brenna frowned. She said she had to work. I don't think she's mad at me. She asked me to come visit her. She hasn't said anything about dating anyone. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. In between bites of cereal, Cassie asked, "So, are you coming home tonight, or do I get to sleep in your comfy guest bed?" "No, I'm staying at the hotel tonight and going straight to the airport from there at noon." "You're lucky I'm such a loser, and the best New Year's Eve plans I had were no comparison to being here on the beach with Zona and the fireworks." Cassie smirked. "I really appreciate you doing this for me last minute. Zona is such a baby when it comes to fireworks. Luke was going to stay, but then his department decided everyone needed to be on call tonight. I'm only gone for a few days. You don't have to stay past tonight. I think he is still planning on covering the other nights. We'll ask him when he gets here." Cassie pointed her spoon at Brenna and waved it in circles at her. "Yeah, I need to know a little bit more about this Luke guy before I run the risk of bumping into him alone." Brenna snorted. "Sweetie, once you meet him, you're going to look for ways to run into him alone. He is delicious." Her little sister pursed her lips, unconvinced. "Well, if he's so delicious," she made air quotes as she said the word delicious, "why haven't you jumped him? I mean, he's Mr. Altruistic and everything. He's right up your alley." Because he's way too young for me. If I were even 10 years younger, maybe. But since I'm not even close to 34 anymore, ain't happening. You, on the other hand, are 30... Cassie interrupted. "You look like you're in your 30s, does that count?" Brenna gave a false smile. "Aw, aren't you sweet?" Then dropped the smile. "I'm still not paying you." "God, you're such a cheap ass," Cassie said, sliding off her bar stool to pour more cereal, and spilling a little on purpose for Zona, who had been patiently waiting for her to drop something. "I don't know why I even agreed to help you out." Brenna smirked. "Because you love me, and because I live on the beach." The younger girl poured more milk into her bowl while pretending to consider what her sister just said. "Oh, yeah. Not to mention your hot tub and stocked fridge." "You know, I have a hard time believing the pharmaceutical business is doing so badly that you can't afford food." "Oh, business is booming. I just got a bonus big enough to pay my car off." Her little sister grinned as she hopped back on her seat and shoved another spoonful in her mouth. "So why don't you have any food at your place?" Cassie jerked her head back like the answer was obvious. "I'm too lazy to go to the grocery store. Besides, I like mooching off my sister, the rich widow." Brenna put a pan of cookies in the oven. "For the record," she said as she closed the oven door, "I'm not rich because I'm Danny's widow. His money is in a trust for our daughter. I'm rich because I've written a damn fine screenplay or two in my day, thank you very much." Cassie rolled her eyes. Yeah. I always forget about what a big shot you are until I see one of your movies pop up on TV and think, hey, that came from my sister's imagination." In a gentler voice, she asked, "When am I going to see something new from you?" Brenna looked away. "I don't know, Cass. It's complicated." "Well, hurry up, would ya? I want to see Assface get schmucked." Cassie grinned and drank her milk from the bowl before continuing. "Oh, and I want to go with you to the premiere. When you and Danny's picture would show up in magazines, I'd tell people, that's my sister. For some reason, they never believed me, even though I look just like you, only with darker hair. If I were your date on the red carpet, that would give me some serious street cred." "Street cred for what, exactly?" "I don't know, just because." Cassie laughed. "One can never have too much street cred. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think I'm going to be helping your street cred anytime soon." Cassie started to protest as she slid off the stool, but then seemed to elect against it. "Did you decide on a dress for tonight?" The younger girl changed the subject while rinsing her dishes in the sink. "I did. I couldn't figure out which shoes I like better, though, so I bought them both to have more time to decide." "Well, it is your lucky day because I am an aficionada of footwear. Let's see what you got." Upstairs in Brenna's room, Cassie was going through Brenna's huge closet, taking garments with their hangers and holding them up to her body in the mirror, when she came upon her sister's wedding dress. Tracing over the satin fabric, the younger girl sighed. "Do you miss him?" Brenna was tugging the black dress down from her hips when she stepped out from the dressing area of the closet and noticed Cassie touching her wedding dress. "Every day." Cassie cocked her head. "Even after everything he did?" "Even after. Just because I didn't want to be married to him anymore didn't mean I stopped loving him. We were madly in love once, and we have a great kid. I wouldn't trade that for anything." "Am I going to go to hell for being glad he died before your divorce was final?" Brenna pulled her hair up off her neck and turned around for Cassie to zip her dress. "Probably," she said over her shoulder, smirking. "But everything of his is going to Danielle, and that's where he would have wanted it, regardless if I made the decision or if he did." She turned back around and Cassie let out a whistle. "Wow, you look freaking hot." They came out of the dressing area so Brenna could do a runway walk in 2 different pairs of shoes. As Brenna paraded up and down her bedroom in mismatched heel heights, Cassie glanced out the window where something definitely caught her attention. Brenna stood on her tiptoes to see what her sister was gawking at, but couldn't get a good look. "Who the hell is that?" Brenna limped over and slid the curtain back to see Luke Rivas had pulled into her driveway in his black topless Jeep with no doors. He was in a well-worn pair of Levi's, a tight gray t-shirt that clung delectably to his muscular chest and arms, and aviator sunglasses on his tanned face. His short black hair only slightly messy from the wind blowing on the ride over. In the passenger seat was his golden retriever, Rex. "That's Luke. And Rex." "That's Luke? Good Lord, he looks like sex on a stick. Shit, here I am in my freaking yoga pants and messy hair bun. Thanks a lot for the heads up." Brenna grinned and smacked the younger girl's butt. "Told ya. Your yoga pants make your ass look great, and you're freaking adorable in your messy bun. So go be your charming self and answer the door. Watch out for Zona, though. If she knows Rex is here, she will beat you to the door, even if that means knocking you over. She loves seeing her boyfriend." Zona had been one of Luke's foster dogs before Brenna adopted her, and had grown attached to Luke's furry boy while living with him. Cassie started walking toward the bedroom door, shaking her head. "Aw, Zona too? Doesn't anybody play hard to get anymore?" Brenna laughed, then called out just as her sister reached the doorway. "Wait, which shoe?" Turning to look for less than 2 seconds, Cassie replied, "Open-toed, definitely." She was out the door and bounding down the stairs when the doorbell rang. After Danny died, Brenna had more money than she could spend and did a lot of pruning in her life. She got rid of the monstrosity of a house in Rancho Santa Fe that her husband had insisted on, along with all the expensive cars and furnishings that went with it. She also sold the condo and cars in Phoenix they had for when he was in spring training, along with a place in Miami Brenna hadn't even known about. His love nest, she assumed. She set aside Danny's portion of the proceeds in trust for Danielle, gave some of it away to causes she supported, and was still left with more money than she would need in 4 lifetimes. She also cut out fake friends and people only interested in being associated with her so they could drop her name. She didn't have the energy for it anymore. That left her with a small, select group of people she now socialized with because she wanted to, not because she had to. Her little sister was one of those people. Blunt, honest, and with the biggest heart of anyone Brenna knew. She loved hanging out with her. Her daughter Danielle was also someone she devoted her time to. Danielle was a freshman at the University of Arizona, her dad's alma mater. Danny had been a standout second baseman for the Batcats and was drafted in the 2nd round his junior year. Unlike many of his peers, he quickly rose up from playing AAA baseball and made it to the big leagues. He was a rookie playing for the Padres when Brenna met him almost 20 years ago. Brenna had decided to buy a place in Tucson so she would have somewhere to stay when she visited Danielle. Cassie and Luke were splitting dog-watching duties while she went house hunting at the end of January, which was why Brenna had invited them both over today. She thought it would be easier to have the two of them in front of her with a calendar as they divvied up the days. Not to mention, she had wanted to introduce them to each other in a not-so-obvious way. Judging by the looks they were exchanging, her instincts had been right about the two. So much for her sister playing hard to get. At least Brenna's instincts still worked when it came to other people. She was, however, not so confident in her abilities when it came to her own love life. Chapter 2. Brenna. Brenna had finally gotten used to being on her own, but still couldn't help feeling sad thinking about the previous New Year's Eve parties with Danny as she got ready for the ball. They really had made the perfect pair, at least to anyone on the outside looking in. Ken and Barbie Baseball was what the out-and-about section would call them whenever they were photographed together in public. He had dark brown hair, green eyes, and was athletic, handsome, and cocky. She was blonde and always immaculately coiffed. She looked damn good, thanks to a personal trainer who kicked her ass almost daily and a plastic surgeon who lifted her boobs, hid her cesarean scar, and injected her with Botox on a regular basis. Being married to a professional baseball player for all those years, she had to look the part of a player's wife and compete with the Diamond Dolls, a fancy way of saying groupie sluts. Sadly, she hadn't competed successfully. His last mistress made sure Brenna knew about her, which backfired since Danny dumped the girl because of it. The prospect of losing half of everything in a divorce trumped whatever she had been doing for him in the sack. Unfortunately for him, Brenna had had enough of looking the other way when it came to her husband's transgressions, and filed for divorce. She almost relented when Danny laid on the charm. He had always been so good at that. But she had allowed herself to seal life without wondering and worrying about what her husband was up to or who he was with, and she liked it. Still not enough to start writing again, but at least the possibility felt like it was there. It was a start. Brenna put her earrings in and smoothed her dress as she looked in the mirror. Turning to check her backside, she took a deep breath. Here goes nothing.
Ron. As he drove to the plaza, Major General Ron Thompson was wondering what the hell he was doing going to this party tonight. Ava had invited him, so he felt obligated to go. He had been the first person she told about her pregnancy, because they'd been talking about dating before she found out. He had a sneaking suspicion she and her baby's father, Travis Sterling, were going to announce their engagement tonight. He was happy for her. She was a charming and beautiful young woman who deserved someone she could settle down and have a family with. Ron quickly realized after learning about her pregnancy that he would have been all wrong for her in the long run. He had to admit, though, he was horny as hell. He'd just gotten back from 2 months in the Middle East, but it had been almost a year since he'd been with a woman. His job, and frankly his standards, kept him from dating much. He'd love a beautiful lady that he could have an intelligent conversation with at dinner, then take home and fuck senseless. But they seemed to be in short supply these days. Or maybe he was just too picky. But having high expectations was his nature. It had served him well with the Marine Corps, and it wasn't something he could just turn on and off, which was probably a good thing, since he was responsible for a lot of Marines' lives. God, he hoped there was decent alcohol at the open bar tonight. Knowing Sterling, it would all be top shelf. There'd be no complaints from him about that, but he probably wasn't going to be staying long anyway. As soon as he walked through the doors, Ava, in her pink Cinderella gown with her adorable pregnant belly, grabbed his hand and pulled him over to meet her girlfriend, Tracy. He knew Ava was trying to offer him a consolation prize, and she didn't go out with him. Her friend was cute, but a little young, and not really his type. He could tell he wasn't her type either, and they each went to their respective tables after only a few minutes of chit-chat. Travis and Ava made the announcement that this was their wedding reception. They'd gotten married earlier that day. Ron watched the two of them together, obviously happy and in love, and he felt something he couldn't quite name. Regret? Jealousy? He'd been married to his career so long he wondered if finding Mrs. Right just wasn't in the cards for him. Maybe he fucked up and missed his chance when he was with Sarah. Maybe he should have gone after her when she left. He thought he was doing what was best for her. He couldn't give her what she was looking for, so he let her go. But if he were honest with himself, he did miss her. He hadn't found anyone else who even sparked his interest. Ron looked around his table. Everyone was dressed in black or white, not a splash of color to be seen. At least people followed directions. It was a black and white ball, after all. His own white tuxedo jacket offset his black bow tie and pants. The girl who sold it to him said he looked like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca. He wasn't so sure that was a compliment. Now, if only he could find his Lauren Bacall. People were offering the usual polite hellos and brief introductions around the table, when the most beautiful woman he had ever laid eyes on was trying to find her place card, and smiled as she took her seat and introduced herself as Brenna Roberts. He felt his breath catch in his chest when she charmingly looked down after he caught her eye, her long blonde hair falling forward around her face. Mrs. Sewell, the older woman sitting next to her, put her hand sympathetically over Brenna's and said, "I'm so sorry about Danny." The gorgeous woman tucked her hair behind her ear with a meager smile and said she was doing all right. Danny Roberts? As in the Danny Roberts, second baseman for the San Diego Padres? Ron knew Danny had been killed in a car crash a few years ago. It was all the news talked about for a week. Sizing his widow up, he had no trouble believing she had been a professional ballplayer's wife. She was damn near flawless, even if some of her parts were probably not authentic. No woman her age had real boobs that perky, but he was perfectly fine with how high hers sat. Perfectly fine. Genuine was overrated. Her skin was like porcelain, and her lips, man, her lips. An image of them wrapped around his dick flashed in his head, and he was suddenly applauding his decision to attend Ava and Travis's party after all. Thank you, whoever made the seating chart, for putting her at my table. He asked everyone at the table if he could get them anything from the bar, and when Mrs. Sewell looked like she was going to offer yet more sympathy to Brenna, the beautiful woman jumped up and said she'd go with him. Ron admired the view as she walked in front of him in a long black gown that hugged her curves perfectly while showing off her shoulders. He wasn't the only one who noticed her. They'd just gotten their drinks when she gave him a flirtatious smile. "So, is there a Mrs. Thompson?" He grinned back. "Why? Who wants to know?" He got distracted momentarily when she sucked her drink through a straw, but managed to catch her teasing reply. "At least every woman at our table. I'm sure they all have a sister, daughter, or granddaughter they're dying to fix you up with." He raised an eyebrow. "Every woman at our table?" She blushed as she smiled at him, but didn't look away. He didn't take his eyes away from hers when he lowered his voice and said, "There's no Mrs. Thompson, present or past, and there's only one woman that I'm interested in being fixed up with." She did look down this time, but kept smiling. "Oh, anyone I know?" He was about to respond when he saw her eyes narrow and a scowl form on her lips. Ron glanced over to where she was looking and noticed a dark-haired man with a salt-and-pepper beard and wire-rimmed glasses and a black tailored suit accompanied by a chubby yet attractive woman in a white gown that was probably a size too small. Her chunky white jewelry matched her dress perfectly, and her brunette hair with blonde highlights was a styled updo. She was lightly holding on to the arm the man was offering, and could have blinded someone with the huge diamond on her left ring finger. The pair looked like they were comfortably bored with each other's company. "That son of a bitch," he heard Brenna mutter as she shook her head. God damn it. He'd hoped since she was here alone she was available. It appeared that might not be the case. Don't jump to any conclusions. Let this one play out. Leaning against the bar, he asked, "Friends of yours?" as he gestured to the couple with his glass before taking a sip. She stood there, looking at the bearded man, almost dumbfounded, not seeming to register Ron was speaking to her, and instead appeared to be contemplating her next move. Finally, she looked at him and offered a fake smile. "If you'll excuse me, I see someone I need to say hello to." He watched her make her way to the couple. She definitely had a nice ass. Fuck. I hope she's not the crazy kind.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?